Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again. My name is Moira Zellner. I'm the director of the Urban Data Visualization Lab at UIC, and I'm here with Dean Massey, who is one of our lab amazing technicians that we have. And we also have other wonderful people in our team, Anton Rosko and Jae Young Shin. And they all have been working really hard to try to create tools that will help you with your outreach. And so what? Oh, am I muted? No, I'm okay, right? Yes. Okay. Yes. And so what we wanted to do today is because we did hear quite a bit of feedback in terms of what you might be useful for your work. And we created a new tool that we wanted to show you and get feedback on to see how this can help you and like how we can tweak it, because we always expect that there are, especially when we roll out something new, that there's going to be like things that might need to be tweaked or changed in some way or adapted in some way to make it work a little bit better for your purposes. So we really appreciate your time today in trying to look at this new tool and tell us what you think as we navigate through it. And then also, like at the end, as usual, we are happy to, well, first of all, do some demos with specific sites that you might want to see, like that are of interest to you, and like to show you how to work this tool in those particular sites. But then if there's also other things that you might have questions about, that whether in this particular tool or in the other tools that already exist and that are available, we're happy to help with that. Dean is also going to show us a little bit of like all that we did last week, but just refer you to the video. Like, we're recording the sessions that we have here so that they're available on the website for everybody to go back and review as necessary. But again, we're also here for you, so you can always contact us with specific questions that you might have, and any way that we can help you, we'll be happy to. So with that, Dean, maybe you want to go ahead and start with your presentation, and just make sure you unmute yourself.
All right, yeah, I was muted. Okay, so before we get to today's new tutorial, I want to refer you to last week's tutorial, so you can see where to find them on the website, and also the instructions we went over last week too. So from our homepage, maptheCount.org, you can click on resources, and then it'll be here at the top because it's the latest one, recordings of Map the Count online tutorials. But if you can also get to by going through using a platform or a training. So if you click on here, you'll get to a playlist. Right now, there's just the one video on it though, but there'll be more tomorrow. And then the instructions we went over. So if you click on maps, then regional intermediaries and subrecipients, and then scroll down to read the instructions here, you'll get to the topics we went over. And so you can just click on like whichever one you want to see, and it'll bring you to that section. So there we go. So now let's go over to the new tool that we're developing. And again, it is really a prototype. So let me just refresh this one more time. So yeah, this is not available publicly through a link on our website or anything yet, but it will be likely next week.
Well, we're hoping that depending on the feedback we get today, we can actually, release it or make it live for you all as soon as possible. So if we get, in general, the message that it's good to go, then we'll release it very soon. Hopefully, maybe even tomorrow. But if not, early next week, that's when we're shooting for at the latest.
So the basic idea for these maps is there's been some discussion about how do we see our result over time. So what's happening like from start of the census self-response period towards closer to now, and how has the response rate changed over time? So the default setting here, oops, I need to get some stuff out of the way, would be response rates by tract. And so you can click on a legend here to see the exact, well, if you scroll down a lot right now, what all these colors mean. And so the darker color means lower self-response score is higher, the lighter is higher. And so this is day 14. So 2 weeks after the start of the census self-response period. So this was April 2nd. And you can see there's lots of dark areas because it just started, so it was pretty low everywhere. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can get a closer view. Maybe I'll go to like Springfield area. And the idea would be that you could then click through these different days and see how the response rates are changing over time. So you can see there's some lighter tracks appearing, like in Suburban Springfield. Those are pretty high. And again, you could click on the map, just like other maps, and see the actual value. So here, this is like 69.4%. Here, just next door, only 50%. We can see, let's see how those change over time. Oh, so it's going up even more. And so it zoomed out a little. So some places are staying low though. And some places like here, right around Springfield, they got high pretty early and are consistently high. Yeah, that's very high, 80% almost. But this will still allow you to see that there's still some persistent areas if you go west here where the response rates have continued to be low. And these maps also will have, again, these mapped activities. So you can see this big donuts for county level activity and these other scattered dots showing what other activities have happened. So here, Illinois Primary Healthcare Association had an event. And so right now, this is showing all of them for every one of these days, but the goal would be to have, like in day 14, this would only show the activities that happened by day 14. And then so you would see only a few activities on the start. And then if you click to the end, you would see more activities. So that's what we will have happen. And that,
so the idea is that then you can actually see week by week how when you do specific activities, what the response rate or how does the response rate change after certain areas.
mm-hmm.
So then you can have a sense of how helpful that those activities have been in those, and if there's to tweak or change, if you maybe conduct some activities, but then you don't see the uptick in response rates that you were hoping for.
Yeah, your audio went in and out.
Do you want to?
So the idea was, Zamora was saying that if you could see the activities over time and the response rates, you could see the effect of the outreach. So like, let's see that in the future, you could see that there was not much happening here and the response rate was low. You could do activities here, and then hopefully the next time this is updated, you would see the response rate going down more there where you're focusing your activity. So that's the goal for how we would want to use this. Oh, hold on a minute. I need to get, oh, there's Moira's back. Okay. So other layers that we would have here too would show you other things like the projections, or I need to actually make this go away so I can see the full menu, all the zoom controls. Or can you, oh, actually I can move, okay. So on the right-hand side, sorry, the zoom controls are blocking the screen. So by default, this is showing the self-response rate. You'd also be able to see other information. We don't need to look at all these right now, but let's look at the RIA service areas. And if you click on this layer, it'll still show you the response rates for these tracks, but you can click. Let me zoom in a little bit first. Let's click
Sorry,
that area.
it kicks me out for some reason. Zoom is not being nice to me today. Sorry, everybody.
So I'm going to zoom into the Chicago area to demonstrate this layer a little more, since there's complex geography for the RIs and up in this area. So this is just showing the boundaries for the RIs, but if you click on the tracks, let's just do here. So it'll show you the self-response rate tracks, but then if you click on these arrows again, then you can cycle through the layers that are open. And eventually we'll get to, maybe it should go in a little more. Eventually I'll get to the layers for the RIs. There we go. So this would allow you again to see who is responsible for the turf there. One question we have for this, would you like to see other things like county boundaries on these maps? Because right now we just are showing the tracks, but we could make like the RI layers be visible by default too, but like transparent like this, so you could click on a map and see who has an area. Or would you like to see like the county boundaries? Let's see.
So I think that actually you can do some searches by city, correct? Or by municipality. I don't know if you can search by county.
So we can, with this, we don't have those other maps, but we can, let's just try for like Will County. There we go. You can only search for normal geographic things, not by census tract with this particular map. But here we're going to Will County. Let's just do another city like, let's say Joliet.
And one of the nice features of this particular kind of map is that once you zoom in, then you can click through all the days and it will keep you zoomed into that place, correct, Dean?
It will for the default layer, self-response layer. We might create a version of this map that has the difference between a projections and a self-response rate being the default layer. Okay, let's see what the comments are. So Linden would like the counties for rural areas, especially a little bit earlier. So Eduardo was asking overall SRR by RIs. We don't have that on our maps. We do have that available. We provided that information to IDHS on a weekly basis. More, do you want to say anything about
I'm not sure what you're responding to though, because I'm seeing the chats here.
I'm going, it must have been out of the room. So Eduardo Orocho asked, will we be able to see the overall SRR per RI? So
right. So that we provide an aggregate form. I think Sean might actually be in this session. I think that Sean Gallardo is here. Maybe he can respond to that, but that's something that definitely IDHS ask us to provide to them, and so
yes.
We do that. But I don't know, Sean, if that's something that we can also share with the RIs. These are in tabular form. But I mean, we could also provide them in aggregate form geographically. So we could do that.
Yeah, this is Sean. Absolutely. We can provide the RIs with their self-response rates of their areas.
Great. Okay, so then it will go through you though, Sean, it will go through IDHS?
Well, I think is there a way to, I guess, in the service areas to include it on the map?
Yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that if both IDHS and the RIs would prefer to do that. We can provide it as a map, as part of the map.
Yeah, it could be, I think it would probably be better on one of these maps.
Yeah, the regional intermediaries map.
Yeah, because these regular maps we could do that. We have other things aggregated, and then for this map focus primarily on showing the changes over time.
Yes, no, Eduardo, you do not want to add all the census tracts. No. We'll, because we already do it anyway, and so we can do that. We can add it to the map. So again, like you can search, just to respond to some of the comments that I see here, you can search by counties and then just go through, like say that you focus on Will County, if you want to do that, Dean, and just then go week by week and see the progression. Townships, I am not sure that townships are provided here, like, but maybe we can try to see if, like, is there a particular township, Mike, Diane, that we could maybe try and search for? And then Mike, yes, you can search by city.
Yes.
Right, you can absolutely search by city. So county, city for sure, you can do. And then I don't know, like, is there any particular township?
Yeah, I don't know names of that many, but let's just try one. I don't know if that would work. Let's see another.
Yeah, I don't know that Esri has that information, unfortunately, but if you know the counties, you can search the county and then just zoom in to whatever townships. Oh, Lyons Townships, Lyons. That's close to where I know.
So this will just bring you to the city, not the township,
right,
though.
Right. But again, like you could start by county and then zoom into the particular area that you are interested in. And the thing is that once you zoom into that area, you can then compare, across weeks. And then let me see.
Yeah.
Did you explain the right sidebar?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So in addition to having different options of the data you can see here, there's also a graph. So let me just go back to day 14. So these will just show the progress over time of the census self-response rate. So at the start, how we are much behind what we projected for, of course, with COVID pandemic happening, we're far behind. But then if you go back to day 63, which is just last week, you'll see that we've gone a lot closer. And this is different for each day.
Right. Here. And so, Kyle, that is for the entire state. But if you go to the Map the Count site, we have it by geography. So I don't know. Yes, Dean, if you want to just show that. So there where you see view graph, then you have the graph by particular geography. The by city or by like census tract, that's where we have like the map that compares the difference between actual and projected response rates. And so that is in map form, not in graph form. So at a more disaggregate level, that is in the map form.
Okay, and let's see what else we have here.
Yeah, hold on, because there are more questions, Dean, that I would like for us to make sure we respond to. So Alicia is asking, it's possible to see Chicago neighborhoods, for example, Little Village or North Lawndale.
That should work. I tried searching for like Pilsen before. You want North Lawndale though? Let's try that.
Yeah, and then the city of Chicago also. And thank you for the suggestions on townships.
So there we go. Yeah, so Chicago neighborhoods work too. So this is more like, again, like what you could search in like with Google Maps. So you can search for places, but you can't search for things like library districts or census tracts or congressional districts or like a ward. But for other types of places you could do. I think you can probably even do addresses. Let me try it. UDVL. Yeah, there we go. This is where UDVL's office is normally.
Yes. I mean, no one's there right
Yeah,
now,
we're not
but
there now.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, addresses too.
So yeah, so you can search by address then, by city, etc. Still not by township, unfortunately.
Right.
But
and going back to the
Kyle, to answer your question, yes, that's the idea for these maps. So the idea is that you can then see the activities week by week and then the effect that that had on response rate. So it would, like, the idea would be that this can give you some information on the effectiveness of specific activities in specific places, to see how impactful they were. So that was the goal with this set of tools.
And let's go back for a minute since we're talking about projections a little. Lyndon asked about the projections, who created them, and in reference to changes that might have happened since in her one area of her turf, there was a lot of demolitions, and so how that would impact the projections. And so we used the most recent data from the census. So that would be like, I think that's 2018 or 19 American Community Survey data. So it should be accurate, but of course the yearly data is not quite as accurate as the decennial census data. So it is an estimate on a tract level for like how many units there are. But vacant units is one of the factors, I think, for maybe the whole state.
Yes.
That affects the
Yes.
rates. So that should be
Absolutely.
reflected in the projections.
Yes, it is. It is definitely reflected. Eduardo points out that you can see the street maps when you undo all the layers, right? So you can, but again, you can search by address. So you can just put an address in there and then just from there, then zoom out or go to wherever you need to go and be able to see then the activities and response rates in those particular areas you're interested in. Diane has a question here. Oh, I don't. So I'm not sure that we can respond to this one, but there's this question that Diane has, I think, for all the group, which is, would love to hear from people how they best communicate responses for second homes that are not occupied on April 1st.
I think that,
but I don't know if that. Yeah, go ahead, Dean.
Probably a question for the DPA team.
Yes. Yes, but maybe there are others here who have dealt with this and maybe have something to share, and this, happy to get the venue for that kind of discussion.
Oh,
so did you more or less show like all the features? Because what I would like to do is maybe just provide the floor to the RIs and subs here, and what things they would like to try that maybe we can just go ahead and try. And as we're looking at how this works, if you have ideas of how to change things or tweak things in ways that would make it more useful for you, if you can let us know.
Yeah, and a few other questions too. But let me just say one thing too. We are not going to replace all of these maps. These maps will still exist. This is an additional tool, and so just with the limitations of Esri, which is the mapping provider, we can't show this like on every map and have all this other information we have here. So this would be like an additional tool if you wanted to see the weekly changes.
So one way, so it's just kind of to give a sense of how I would use these different tools. I would suggest that you start with the Map the Count website maps to try to identify where activities have been, but also where most is needed by looking at the difference between actual and projected response rates. Once you identify where more activity is needed, then maybe go to the progression, because maybe you say, but we did stuff there. Like, why are things not moving or as much as we would like to? Then maybe go to the week by week to have a more detailed sense of what activities you conducted and where, and how they made a difference in the response rate over time, to then maybe help you think of what other strategies can you use in those areas.
Mhm.
So Chad is saying we instructed people. Oh no, this is for the second home. That's so people who are asking about the Diane, this is for you. Like there's some responses to your comments on the chat.
Well, let me touch on something that Kyle Smith asked. So, can we use this data to determine what activities have been most effective in boosting response rates right after the activities occurred? So, that is a difficult question to say conclusively. There is so many messages happening, census messages happening, so it's hard to say this one particular thing may have had an effect, but if you are doing a number of activities in an area, you would hope that you'd be able to see like a change relative to other areas, a greater change for more effort. So that's how we hope that people can use this. And we can't really say right now, like
Yes.
a particular type of outreach is better based on this map, but you can maybe try to.
No, but they can. No, but
Yeah.
Dean, it's not for us to say. It's
Yeah,
actually
right.
for
The map is not
subs
doing
to
that,
say.
but you can
Right.
do
No,
that.
the map is showing the types of activities that happen where and when.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what is different from the other tools we showed you before is that now you can also see when they happen, and then what the response rate was after those were implemented. But that can give you an idea of what things worked better or not as much based on what you observe in your areas as you implemented some of these activities, and you see the response, the response that how the response rate changed after that. So that's definitely something that these tools are designed to help you figure out. The other thing to consider again is if you did specific kinds of activities and they did not result in what you expected, another thing is to go back to the other maps, the original maps that we have, and Dean, if you can show them, where again, we highlight what are the factors that influence the response rate in specific areas. So if you're in rural areas, the factors that Dean is highlighting and that you can also find as you click on the tracts, those are the factors that influence response rates. So one thing you can always do is just make sure that you check how you incorporated those factors in the design of your outreach activities. So like just drawing attention to the fact that those particular factors might be important in a specific area that you're working on.
Okay, and Mike is asking, is there a way to identify the kind of activities that always seem to have a positive influence?
So again, that will probably be different depending on where you are working and with what kinds of populations you're working.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the tool is designed for you to be able to try to assess that in your own area, because again, that can be different depending on where you're working on. So if it's a rural area, if it's an urban area outside of Chicago, if it's in Chicago, that may be different. And even like if you're targeting, even then, different populations. So the idea for this tool is for you to be able to start seeing if there's some commonalities there in what you are doing and the response rates that you are getting.
Mm-hmm. And again, this the legend, the shapes correspond to the type of activity, and this is the same display as the other maps. So like going back to the top again, these squares are the single events. It could be like, or back in like maybe February, door knocking, or other kinds of events like mailers. Then you have other things like direct engagement, media, which are like these diamonds, and so on. So you can look at this map to try to figure out like what type of outreach over time seems to be more effective.
Right. So you've got like.
It's not going to tell you that. You need to still use the tool to interpret it, and you have a better idea if you're doing the outreach, like what it was, because these are not all the same. So like you can see the people reach, so 75, 60, there's bigger ones too. And so if you approve these activities, you probably have a better idea than we would about what's more effective here.
Right. And so remember, there are different colors reflecting the RI that these activities are under, and different shapes reflecting the kind of activity in the 4 big categories of activities that there are. So, so those are the distinctions. And so Robin has a question here of if there are some practices for activities. That is all in the realm of what the DPA team has been training the RIs and subs on. But there are some resources on the web. So if you want to go back, and I know that the DPA team has also their own materials. But Dean, if you want to show where some of these resources are on the map account. So if you go to resources, and so there are some outreach tools, what works, how to do it. Like there are all of these things that are set up there by partners of IDHS, also by DPA, by the Voorhees Center, depending like, again, like which populations or areas you're targeting. But there are some resources there. But all of the training that DPA has been doing has been precisely about, you know, what are some best practices for some of these activities. What we are doing is providing tools to help you tie more closely the kinds of activities with the kinds of impact that you're having, and where it matters, so where it's happening and where it's needed. That's what we are providing tools for.
Right. And I did just I was taking a look before the meeting started to see if I could find some areas, even without time series, where you can see there's some areas that are being overlooked. So I'm gonna.
Well, maybe not overlooked, but you know, somehow they're not getting the response or like the reaction that one would hope.
Yeah, I need to zoom out more. So one of these areas is like over near St. Louis. So it's a little slow right now. There's a lot of information on these maps. So let me go down here. This is really going slow.
Again, like I think it might be faster if you just search for a particular location, Dean. Especially because Zoom also takes a lot of.
Okay, so like the area up here, one thing to point out, like with this, so all these rural areas initially had low response rates, but then let's just jump forward a little. Activities were happening over here and the response rate is going down, versus over here, there isn't
up.
much
the response rate is going up?
The response rate's still down over here though, and there's only really the county level types of activities, whereas over here, you can see this more of these distributed purple dots, and so there's a lot more happening at a little more local level here. And
right.
There's probably some link between outreach and the response rates.
So it's not the outreach, but the outreach level. So so maybe there are some more localized activities that can happen and that seem to be having more of an impact on response rates at the than the county level activities. So yes, most of this is farmland. These are more like rural areas.
Yes, and we don't have the activities tied with the date yet, but they will be there, and that would help answer the question more. So you could see, like, was more, maybe like a lot of these are more recent, and so that might be why there hasn't been a change. So you could
there might be a delay in the change. Responding to Martha's question here, can we see an urban example? So maybe, I don't know, Rockford, Springfield.
Yeah, or let me go over to let's do Springfield. It'll take a minute to load. Let me.
And then we can also look at Riverdale. Maggie would like to check that out.
Oh, this is Springfield, Massachusetts. That's why.
No,
this is like, this looks familiar. There we go. So this was day 14. So only really the suburbs of Springfield were having getting a high response rate initially, but then let's just jump forward to day 63. So the center, downtown areas of Springfield are still lagging behind, but the suburban area.
But what you're seeing is a lot of activity happening in that dark area over there, which makes complete sense that that would be the case. There's another area further south that is also dark where not much activity has taken place. And so that might be another area of attention. And maybe we don't see it this week, but maybe next week we see that there's an increase in response rate in those dark areas. So that's what we would like. That's, as users, as RIs and subs, that's what you would like to see. And so we're hoping again that you can see that with these tools more clearly.
Let's go to Riverdale. Okay, so let me go back to day 14 again. Let me zoom out a little bit too. So Riverdale is right here. So we can see there's really not that many activities happening relative to other areas, and the response rate is still relatively low.
Well, there are some concentration of activities. Again, like if you go further, like maybe because the idea is to actually see the progression, Dean. So not just the first and last day, but like see like in between what happened. So maybe we can do that and just see how things changed over time. It's almost like you can play it almost like an animation. And so there's definitely a lot of effort in the darker colored area over time.
Yeah, card down here.
Right, exactly. But there doesn't seem to be as much impact as one would hope, given the amount of activity. So that's why it's important to not just do first and last, but really look at the progression and see what has been going through. And it's another way of showing also, you know, for IDHS's purposes, like, you know, things have been happening, but maybe there needs to be a change in strategy there that can help just raise the response rates in that area a little bit more. So any questions or examples that you want to run us by, or any suggestions about things that you would like to see in this tool?
And let's see if we've gotten to all the comments. I think we have.
Or any other questions, not about this tool, maybe some of the other mapping tools that we have.
So someone asked for more urban examples. Let's go to maybe Cicero.
Okay. Oh, Robin had a question. Sorry, I don't have the.
I'll just cycle through Cicero while you get to that question. So let's start day 14. It's pretty low everywhere. But then as we cycle through, you will see it go up in a lot of areas.
While you do that, I wanted to respond to Crispina, and Robin, feel free to jump in either, you know, by unmuting yourself and asking the question, or by putting it on the chat. But Crispina is asking, how soon is grant activity reflected in the map? We update activities twice a week. But in this map, we do it week by week. So we accumulate by week, and then we just have a new one of these tabs each week.
But for these these 6 maps, these are updated every day with the response rates, but then for the activities, they're updated twice a week.
Yeah, twice a week.
Mondays and Thursdays. So someone asked about Madison.
Yeah, so they're asking about Madison and also Mount Vernon.
Okay, let's go to Mount Vernon first, since that was written first. And let's see. Sorry, all these windows are in my way. Let's go to.
And then again, I cycle through all the days, all the weeks. So it's definitely getting better. But there are some areas that are persistently low response, and yeah, especially that tract.
Yeah, 43%. And there is activity happening there too. But like, for example, here, this area is doing excellent, 71%, but there is still a lot of activities happening here.
Right.
Like
Which is maybe like, but again, we've got to see what the goal is for that particular area. Maybe they're doing great, but maybe the projected rate is higher. And so that's why they're still focusing activities there.
Yep. And also, it's, sometimes this is where you're physically located. So, of course, there'll be more things happening there.
Mm-hmm.
So the other question was Madison?
Madison, yes.
Okay.
And then we'll show Waukegan.
Okay. Let me zoom out one more time and move over a little bit so we get more of the area. Go back to day 14. And I'll cycle through slowly. Oh, so yeah, it's really going a lot ahead in most areas, but you still have these persistently low areas right in here.
Mm-hmm. And so again, remember, if you go to the other set of maps, there you can see not only the factors that affect low response rate in those areas, but also you can see like how those factors are distributed. So like it's because we've got layers of the maps that show, for example, percent vacancy and so on and so forth. So we've got like quite a few more requests to do some searches.
Okay, I'll just go back to there. Waukegan.
We've got Waukegan, we've got Chicago Heights, we've got Cairo.
Go back to day 14. Let me move over a little bit here too.
Yeah, so it's been tough to change the response rates in those areas, huh?
Yeah, and
so there might be something that you, right. So at least, so again, like this might give you an idea of like having maybe to revisit some of your strategies and thinking like what have you done up to now? What are the characteristics of this population in this area? And what might be useful to change to see if response rates can change in those places.
Chicago Heights. Let's go back to day 14. Yeah, it's staying pretty low in Chicago Heights.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah. 75% versus 43% right next door. So let's try Cairo.
Yeah. And then in the meantime, Mike has a question here. And Mike, let me see if I understand this correctly. You're asking if there's any way to offset drastic changes in population and the response rates. Do you mean like if we are accounting for changes in population in the last few years? If so, that's what our projected response rates are about. So the lab produced a projection of what the response rates might be per tract, given how things have changed since 2010 in terms of population and other kinds of socio-demographic factors. And that's then what we use as what we suggest that RIs and subs use as a goal to, like what are the response rates that can be expected, but then of course, if we can exceed it, even better, right? But like just having a sense of what is it that we can expect in some of these tracts, given the changes in population and other socio-demographic characteristics.
So Cairo is a good example of just because nothing much has really changed here. It started out low. So then day 14 response rate was 28%. And I'm just going to cycle all the way to the end because you can't really see much changing the response rate here only went up to 37%. And there are activities happening. So it's a challenging area.
Yes, yes. And so again, these areas, these are the candidates for you to go back to the other maps and look at the factors that contribute to low response rates there, and like how they, how essentially those factors are distributed in that space. Because maybe you need to adapt your outreach activity based on the factors in that area. Mike also wanted to know about Harvey.
Yeah, let's go.
And then we've got another request.
So let me go to the other maps where we can see some more of the factors. So I'll go to Harvey for this too. The response rate is relatively low for much of Harvey. So what you could do is, and these are on the maps that are publicly available right now, you can turn off the response rate and cycle through some of these other factors and see like what's going on there. And so the vacant units would relate to your question. So like here,
yes,
yeah, almost a third of the units are vacant there. So of course you would have different strategies in an area like that than you would where there was basically no vacancy. So I mean, you can't do it now, but like it would be harder to do like canvassing in an area like that.
So Mike, the information that we have is the latest available through the American Community Survey. So that would be until 2018, I believe. 2000. I don't know if we have like 2019. We are in the process, however, of getting a new data set that will go all the way to 2019. And if there's any update that we can, any of the data or layers that we can update with that information, we will certainly do that. There's a question here by Jen. If you were working with the undercounted in North Chicago, Illinois, where would you bring the library bookmobile with Wi-Fi and a laptop? Can you see the recommended street? So maybe just like give an example, Dean, of like how could they use the maps to answer that question. So first of all, let's look for North Chicago.
Yeah, so here's North Chicago, and let's just cycle through this again quickly. We were in this area a few minutes ago, but you can see there is still these persistent areas that aren't going down, and there isn't much happening necessarily in some of these areas. So the lowest we can go for the resolution for these kinds for the census is the census tract. So we can't see like maybe the block level what's happening, but you can still get an idea of maybe somewhere on this side, the areas where there's been less activity happening and where there's still persistently low response rate.
So one thing that you can do is like with that information, go to the other maps. The ones on the map account, and look for North Chicago.
And then again, you can cycle through
and go through like, well, first of all, look at some of the factors that would be problematic in this area, like things to consider in this area that might be contributing to the low response rates.
Yeah,
which map are you seeing now, Dean? No, this is
I'm using the statewide map. I think this would be, this should be suburban, Chicago suburbs, I think.
It would say there in the list.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't know. And then we can also take a look at Peoria. Robin wanted to check that one out.
Okay, it is in this one. So suburban Chicago. So in this area,
part of it is, yeah.
Yeah. So so this area here, this is the Great Lakes Naval Station. This doesn't actually have a projection or the permanent population to be. So it's not included on our maps, like this particular area here. So the factors that matter in Chicago suburbs are listed here, including unemployment, no phone service, vacant units, and so on. So you could click on, I'm going to turn off the response rate, and then you could cycle through some of those issues. So higher unemployment here.
Oh, so Jen is saying North Chicago is going to do a census awareness parade.
Okay.
But yeah, vacancy again can be an issue here, in this area.
Younger populations, actually not the 5, let's see, 18 to 24, that's one.
So again, these going back to like what are the factors that might be contributing to low response rates in these areas, and being able to see like where they are in space and distributed in this particular area, because then maybe your activities need to adjust to those conditions within that area. And those conditions might be different in the area that you're interested in, but they all contribute to low response rates. So again, you can use this information to design your outreach activities to fit and to address those factors.
So another question is Peoria. Let's go there.
Peoria, and while you're looking for Peoria, I wanted to answer to Heather. Heather, not a problem. We're happy to go over things that we did last week. The issue about the response rates, what we use to map the response rates, and we clarify this in the text if you were able to see it. If not, we can point you to it. But one of the things that we post on the maps is the median value of response rates, not the mean. And the reason we use the median is because it is more, it's a better representation of the overall response rate of a tract or of an area than the average. And the reason is because there might be outliers. You might have extremes, and those might distort the average a little bit up or down, and might not give you quite the same picture of what is going on than if you use the median, which is the midpoint value of all the response rates in a particular area. So when you look at this at the municipality level, etc., that is why it might be a little bit different from what you're finding on the census. But we do take all of the data from the Census Bureau, so what we're posting here is the official data. Let me know if that answers your question.
Oh, and so Mike followed up again about people moving out. So if people have really been moving out just in the past year, that might not be reflected. But if it's, because we only have the most recent data, so even something like unemployment rate, this would have like unemployment rate a year ago, not now, which of course is much higher everywhere.
Yeah,
but
no, but I mean, that's what I was referring to, Dean. You were working on the map. You didn't hear me say that, but I was referring to getting this new data set.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if anything does change, we'll certainly put it on these maps.
Okay. And then you answered the question for Heather here too. Okay. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I think we're caught up with the questions then.
Yes, I think we are. Like, are there any questions about this or some of the other tools, things we saw last week? Oh, there's another one from Emma. Any data regarding update leave and where it was done? Update leave. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by update leave.
Sorry, I just joined, so I apologize if you've already addressed this. But yeah.
Oh, hand delivery. Thank
delivery.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you. So which category?
So I'm sorry, Maura, I can sort of speak a little bit on that. So no, update leave has not happened yet. They're rolling it out across the US area by area. And they have started in the Midwest, so it should be coming to us fairly soon, but it's going to be a rolling process across the state most likely as well. But as of now, we don't know where and when, but we're thinking it's going to start in the rural areas first, and sort of the areas that weren't hit as hard by COVID. Those will be the first areas, and then they'll make their way through the rest of the state. Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Does anybody have any more suggestions about things that you'd like to see on these kinds of time series maps, or other questions about like reporting or using the platform? Because we're here and we are free to answer those questions too. So we know that there's a reporting deadline coming up soon. Well, 2 weeks, I guess, or so. And you can unmute and ask too if you.
Oh, thank you, Lyndon. Yes, we're excited about this. I think that it will be like, again, like another, there are different tools for different things. And we're just hoping, yes, there will be a video. We're hoping that all of these tools together can give you a lot of the support that you need to focus your efforts as efficiently as possible where they're needed the most. Yes, we are recording this session and it's going to be available on our website. And yeah, can you show that?
Yeah.
Great.
So you would click on the resources tab and click on recordings of math account tutorials. Actually, let me go back. So it's here now because it's the latest one, but you could click on like using the platform or training. It'll be there too.
So yes, so under recordings, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so there's only one here, but you can see it'll be there when there's another one.
Yes. So once we download this one, it will be on the website. But the other thing also, so that you all know, is that we plan to have like every Thursday, we're going to have some kind of tutorial, or even, we can have just like an open help desk session for people to join in with specific questions or things that they want to go over. It always helps to have examples from other people. So if a group shows up, that's always good, because then we can learn from other examples or questions that we haven't even thought of, but other people have. And that's the way that we all learn. And that also it helps us in the lab to think of ways in which we can improve the tools that we're developing for you to support you the best way we can. So again, like, we're totally open to feedback. Let us know what you think. We're gonna put this live soon. Again, like either tomorrow or Monday, I think at the latest, so that you can start working with this. But even as we put it live, it's not final. So if there's things that you think can be improved or that would help you, or you have questions about, please don't hesitate to contact us. So Dean, can you show them how to contact us?
Yep. And so there's a few ways you can use through this website. You can go to the contact form. If you're on the platform itself, you can, let me go back to the top here, click on support. And here there's a link, need to reach us. If you click on that, it'll open your email, and then it'll email support@mathaccountant@zendesk.com. And it makes a ticket that we can all answer. And that's actually better than emailing one of us individually too, in case one of us is out or who knows what else. So this will make sure that all the members of the team get the message.
Right, we all get it if you send it that way, and also through the contact form. There they have to choose, like when they go through the contact form, they've got to choose a platform, correct, for us to get it?
Yes.
Like on the other website.
Here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like when it says, what can we help you with today? Just click on platform support, which is a default, and then we'll get it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Diane is suggesting here that every printed piece has a census website and hopefully a phone number. So are you talking about printed piece as in like when you print out the maps from the tool, or what printed pieces are you thinking of, Diane?
Oh yeah, for
Oh yeah, that's the swag. Okay, so yeah, that is for DPA definitely. That's under their realm and what they do, and I think that they already produced that. But if not, I'll definitely relay that suggestion to them to make sure that they receive it.
and so I will email you all tomorrow to let you know. Again, this is the link that we link to the video, and I will be emailing when we have this resource available. It'll be on the website, but I'll let you know via email like exactly how to find it though too. Into the next subject. So like as Maura was saying, we might not have a very long tutorial every week, but we can at least be there to answer questions and maybe do just a short presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And again, please suggest anything. We can do a more detailed thing if there's a question that is like continually being a problem for you and your subs or RIs, whoever.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, unless we can stay for a few more minutes, but to see like if there are any like lingering questions at the end. But thank you very much for joining us today. And we'll see you whenever you need us. And also every Thursday we'll be around here. So thank you very much for joining us again. And I hope this is helpful for you. And again, we welcome you.